Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Today, with the Steelers' day off in Latrobe, I wanted to talk a little bit about some rumors, specifically surrounding the wide receiver position after Calvin Austin III, Roman Wilson, and Robert Woods have gotten off to slow starts at Steelers training camp, and talk about the possibility of Omar Khan trading for a star wide receiver to pair with DK Metcalf before the start of the 2025 NFL season. Before we get into the content today, get us started down there in the comments section. What's the percent chance that the Pittsburgh Steelers add a starting wide receiver to their lineup before the start of the season, week 1 versus the New York Jets? Put it on a scale of 0, meaning no chance they add another starting receiver before the year, to 100%, meaning it's just a matter of time. All right, so I'm just going to start the video off with this, guys. I know that it's a very popular name on Steelers Twitter and, arguably top 10 receiver in the game today. But if a trade happens, I highly doubt it's going to be for Commanders wide receiver Terry McLaurin. But Jack, he's requested a trade, all that different stuff. Well, here's a couple of reasons why I don't think if he does get traded, it's not going to be to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number one, it doesn't seem that Washington is all that interested in trading Terry McLaurin despite the trade request. A lot of times, guys, trade requests these days is kind of a negotiation tactic to try and get negotiations going with that player's current team. In the last 3 receivers to request a trade from their team, T. Higgins, Deebo Samuel, there's one more I can't remember, but they all got their deals done with their respective teams. Also, I think that Terry McLaurin's going to be too expensive for the Pittsburgh Steelers. For a team that wants to play really heavy personnel and have a lot of 3 tight end sets this year, it doesn't make a lot of sense to pay 2 receivers $33+ million per season. I don't think the Steelers can afford this move necessarily. And then the final reason is, if the Commanders do want to trade McLaurin and the Steelers are interested, they're going to want a receiver back in exchange for him, because at this point, they have to replace Terry McLaurin in their wide receiver room, but the Steelers don't really have a whole lot of receiver options outside of DK Metcalf that would be enticing to the Commanders in a trade. I don't think they would be too particularly interested in Calvin Austin. I don't think they would be interested in Roman Wilson, who hasn't established himself at all. Same thing goes for Robert Woods. There's just nobody here in this wide receiver room here in Pittsburgh, in my opinion, that the Commanders would want in an exchange for Terry McLaurin. So, for all those reasons, I don't think Terry McLaurin is going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler this year. And honestly, I don't think he's going to get traded at all. And honestly, I think that Tyreek Hill from the Miami Dolphins is a more likely trade target for the Pittsburgh Steelers than Terry McLaurin is at this point in time. All right, and the reason why I say that is that there's definitely some awkward juju surrounding Tyreek Hill and the Miami Dolphins organization right now. Just this week, Tyreek Hill had this to say when a reporter asked him about what the team can do better in third and short situations. He said, take Devon Achane out on third down. That's my honest opinion. If it's third and short, he's not a power back. I be telling him that in the locker room, but he swears that he's a power back. I love Devon, but if I'm being honest, that's why you got Jalen Wright. That's why you got Ollie Gordon for those kinds of situations. And then Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel didn't seem to love that comment from Tyreek, kind of sarcastically responding to him during his press conference earlier this week, saying, I thought it was a genius reporting by Tyreek, seeing how we had a short yardage period that very day you guys were in attendance for. And his suggestion was, I guess, congruent with running backs coach Eric Stoodsville. That's exactly how we repped the backs in that short yardage period that very day. But we thought it was funny that he reported the news that wasn't news on that practice day in that short yardage period that you guys were all there for as well. And then not just Mike McDaniel, but Tua Tagovailoa seems to be a little bit cold towards Tyreek Hill after he said after the regular season finale in Miami last year that he wanted out from the team. This is what Tua had to say to open training camp this year in Miami. You guys aren't the only people that heard that. So when you say something like that, you don't just come back with a, hey, my bad. You've got to work that relationship up. You've got to build everything up again. It's still a work in progress, not just for me, but for everybody. So listen, guys, I still think it's unlikely that the Dolphins end up trading Tyreek Hill at this point. I still think they're trying to compete with Tua Tagovailoa as their quarterback. Mike McDaniel, I think, is starting to feel some of the heat in terms of his job security. And obviously, Tyreek Hill is an awesome player. You want him on the field for you, especially at this point where there's very limited options in terms of replacing him. But if the Steelers Steelers wanted to give Miami a call here, and if things really start to get ugly in Miami, this would be my trade offer for Tyreek Hill, okay? A third-round pick next year. The Steelers have multiple of them next year, by the way, and Calvin Austin III, who is a very similar style of receiver to Tyreek Hill. He's not nearly as good, all right, but to play that role in the Dolphins offense, Calvin is smaller like Tyreek Hill is. He's a speedster like Tyreek is. He's a downfield threat like Tyreek is. If you really want to replace his role in that Miami Dolphins offense, I think Calvin Austin III is a really good route runner, can threaten to all three levels of the field, really good ball tracking ability down the field as well. Pair him up with Jalen Waddle. You still have that really fast wide receiver duo that they want there in Miami, and they get an additional third-round pick, and they get Tyreek Hill out of their locker room. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Would you accept this trade if you were Steelers GM Omar Khan? Give me an A for accept or D for decline. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. So in just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at Fanatics. And while I'm telling you about Fanatics today, go down there in the comments section and give me an A for accept or D for decline. And if you guys want an Aaron Rodgers jersey from our friends at Fanatics today, you guys can go to chatsports.com/AR8. They've got a lot of back to school deals as well with a bunch of different promo codes. You guys can use code CLASS or DORMS to be able to get 25% off this jersey. Especially when you use our link, chatsports.com/AR8. Again, that link is down in the comments and description of today's show. And if you use special promo code DORMS or CLASS, Fanatics is going to give you an extra 25% off your jersey today. So go chatsports.com/AR8 to take advantage of this deal today. So now let's talk about some other options at the wide receiver position. I think Tyreek is probably the biggest name that could feasibly happen before the start of the season. But like Terry, he's a little bit more expensive. Maybe the Steelers don't want to spend that much money on what essentially would be their number 2 wide receiver at that point. DK is going to be the leading receiver in this offense this year. But some other options that are out there, if they just want to go the free agency route, I still think Amari Cooper makes the most sense for this team. Now, Cooper isn't the best run blocker in the world, but Aaron Rodgers has been very complimentary of Cooper's game. He has complimented him a number of times on the Pat McAfee show and said that he's been a fan of his for a very long time. And then also, Rodgers throughout his career works well with receivers like Amari Cooper, guys that have big bodies and guys that are really good route runners. That was the type of receiver that Davante Adams was there in Green Bay, and he absolutely loved working with Davante. So I think that Cooper might be looking for some work right now for a team that's a little bit more competitive, and I think Rodgers would love the opportunity to play with Cooper. So if they can get over the fact that Cooper is not the best run blocker in the world, I think that this is something that could work here in Pittsburgh. Another one that I think that, if the Steelers can pull it off, I think would be phenomenal, and that's Romeo Doubs from the Green Bay Packers. That Packers wide receiver room is quite full, and Doubs has had issues with the team for not getting enough touches in the past, and this year I think he's going to see the ball even less with Matthew Golden being injected into that room. And a bunch of other guys that they've added as well. I think part of the issue with Rodgers and the offense to this point in training camp has been a lack of chemistry, a lack of connection, and that wouldn't be an issue with Romeo Doubs. The second he steps in with the Pittsburgh Steelers, maybe it would take a little bit of time to get reacclimated, but Rodgers and Doubs already have a language together. They already have some established chemistry together playing with one another in Green Bay during Dobbs' rookie season back in 2022. Rodgers was very complimentary of Dobbs. I think that he would sign off on this trade in a heartbeat if Omar Khan would be able to, pull that off. And then another name that I don't think I've ever discussed on this show before, guys, but I kind of realized this kind of going over all the other rosters in the National Football League over the weekend. Michael Wilson from the Arizona Cardinals, I think, would be a phenomenal fit with Aaron Rodgers and with the Steelers offense. He's just a very tough, smart, savvy route runner with really good hands. He's a good run blocker. And right now, the element that Arizona is missing in their wide receiver room is a true deep threat. Greg Dortch is smaller and fast, but he's more of a gadget type guy, more of a manufactured touch guy. You got Trey McBride, you got Marvin Harrison Jr. Those guys are phenomenal at what they do, but they don't have a true take the top off the defense type of deep threat. And it just so happens the Steelers have one of those guys on their roster right now in Calvin Austin III. So, what you could do is you could swap Calvin and Michael Wilson. The Steelers get their route runner, their bigger body, their run blocker. You can put Roman Wilson in the slot then, which is where I think that he's a better player anyways. And the Cardinals get their deep threat to, take the top off the defense so that Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride can do their thing underneath. I think that this trade could potentially work out for both sides, but very rarely do you get player-for-player trades in the NFL. So honestly, guys, this one's pretty unrealistic as well, in my opinion. Then Adam Thielen, I think, is one to keep your eye out for here, guys, especially if guys like Jimmy Horn Jr., guys like Ted Aurora McMillan, if guys like Jalen Coker, if guys like Hunter Renfrow continue to play well in camp for the Carolina Panthers. I think the Panthers are more of a they could maybe make the playoffs this year, but they're probably not going to compete for a Super Bowl championship. This might be Adam Thielen's final year in the NFL, and he might want to play for a team that's making more of a push to win a Super Bowl this year. And, the Panthers have a lot of wide receiver talent in their wide receiver room right now that's more long-term, right? Younger players, rookies, and Adam Thielen is not going to be there long-term. So you might as well get a pick out of him while you still can. And, guys, Pittsburgh was interested in Adam Thielen at the NFL trade deadline last year. Now, it sounded like the Carolina Panthers wanted like a third or a fourth round pick in exchange for him. The Steelers weren't willing to pay that much to get him. But if Carolina's willing to let him go for a fifth or a sixth round pick before the season, I think the Steelers would pull the trigger on that in a heartbeat. Then the final name to consider here, somebody that would probably only cost you like a seventh round pick, maybe a conditional sixth, John Metchie, formerly with the Alabama Crimson Tide, currently with the Houston Texans. And Metchie is a really good fit for what the Steelers would be asking for out of their Z wide receiver. All right, he's a really good run blocker for his size. He's a good route runner. His hands are a little bit inconsistent, but if you want to get another younger type of dart throw in this room, John Metchie is somebody that wouldn't cost all that much, but would have a decent chance to start for this football team if Omar Khan ends up landing him this season. So name your price down there in the comment section. How high of a draft pick are you willing to give up for a wide receiver? Are you willing to go as high as a first-round pick to get a guy like Terry McLaurin? Do you want to go second or third round pick to get a guy like Tyreek Hill, or would you rather go day 3? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Which round pick are you willing to go to get a wide receiver this year? That'll be it for today's edition of Steelers Talk by Chat Sports. Guys, thank you so much for stopping by today. We'll have more Steelers coverage for you guys tomorrow. The Steelers are supposed to release their first unofficial depth chart for their preseason game this weekend tomorrow. And then, of course, more practice reports from Latrobe tomorrow as the Steelers practice once again on Tuesday. So click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Until tomorrow, guys, here we go, Steelers.